up, guys? It's your boy Nashville, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Central PWC One on One. And as you can see, I've got a brand new member here with me. This guy's name is Kamal. He is a longtime OG member of Pro Wrestling Central. You may not have seen him on camera before. Actually, you have not seen him on camera before, but he has been working behind the scenes. He's been helping us out a lot on our online promotions and trying to get Pro Wrestling Central to the place that it needs to be. But here he is. So you guys are going to be able to hear from him and see him for the first time ever. This is Kamal. Kamal, welcome to finally you are on the screen with Pro Wrestling Central, and you are on your very first video. This is one on one. Kamal, welcome. Just say hello to everyone. How are you feeling?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks. Very excited being here. Hey, thanks so much for the opportunity.
Welcome, welcome. So as you can see, I'm full of high energy. So you might feel a bit, at first like, whoa, what's this guy? But this is just me. This is how I normally am. So no need to be shocked. But guys who are watching, this is, I think, our fourth, if I'm not mistaken, our fourth one-on-one video. And why we call this video one-on-one is because we are one-on-one with just myself, Nashville, and another member of the PWC, or an upcoming member of the PWC in the case of Kamal over here. And he's going to be talking to us about who he is, what he likes about wrestling, what he doesn't like about wrestling. We're just going to be having a nice, good, light talk about wrestling so you guys get to know Kamal. And when you see him on future videos, you know exactly how his mind thinks, so that when we drop our future predictions and our future videos, you know exactly who this guy is. But you may be sitting there, you may have never seen a one-on-one video before. So let me give you guys a quick explanation why this video is called one-on-one. Not just because it's me and another person, it's just one-on-one talking about wrestling, but it also came from the former SmackDown general manager, longtime general manager, guys may remember, Theodore R. Long, who, whenever he felt like the heel or the bad guy was just stepping out of line, he would tell him, well then, player, tonight you will go one-on-one with The Undertaker. So that's basically how one-on-one came around. So enough of me. I mean, you guys hear Nashville flapping his gums all the time. Let's hear from Kamal. Kamal, welcome to Pro Wrestling Central. Welcome to One on One. Just give the people a good idea of who you are, who is Kamal, and how did you start watching this weird and wacky and fun world of professional wrestling?
Okay, first I would like to say I'm Kamal, built from Durban, South Africa, weighing 90 kgs. Is I'm a proud member of CWO, Charo World Order for life. Okay, my first love for wrestling started with Bret Hart. I used to like his cool sunglasses, and I used to love his moves, his music theme. Hey, Bret Hart was the one that got me started. He was the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. Very cool theme. I like the assassin guy as a hitman. That's what he's known for. And my later on, I started to discover WCW, and that's where I got to meet Rey Mysterio. That's where I got connected with cruiserweight division, the high flying moves, the technique. I liked them taking risks, and that's what made wrestling realistic. Um, People used to say wrestling is fake with all those punches, but the guys flying up in the air, that's you can really get hurt. I mean,
I love the high flyers. Rey Mysterio was one of the greatest, if not one of the greatest Mexican wrestlers of all time. And he came from the WCW Cruiserweight era, which is one of my favorite eras. I also like high flyers and, ladder matches. That's my kind of forte. So you're a huge Rey Mysterio fan. You started off liking Bret Hart. And you, I believe, started what you said you started watching WWF at the time, and then you got introduced to WCW, right?
Yes, my WWF experience was in the 90s. So, and then when ETV started showing WCW, that's where I got to exposure to Rey Mysterio, the Filthy Animals, Eddie Guerrero. That those were awesome times. And I started to believe WCW was getting better than WWF. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember when ETV started showing WCW, and at the time, my very first match I can remember was Goldberg's debut. And Goldberg, for some reason, I gravitated towards him, and he was my favorite wrestler. Now, not so much, but back then, yeah,
Mm,
he was my favorite guy. But
mm.
so you mentioned like we used to watch WCW on ETV, which is a local free-to-air public station here in South Africa. And then WCW obviously folded, and then they brought back watching WWF, which became WWE later on. So, I mean, you've watched WWF, WWE, WCW. I'm sure you've touched a little bit of ECW, some TNA. AEW now is kind of popular somewhat. Of all the wrestling promotions you have watched, from the time that you remember watching wrestling to now, what would you say is your favorite wrestling promotion of all time and why?
My favorite promotion would be, yeah, I think it would be TNA.
Okay.
I mean, AJ Styles, Elevation X. I mean, fighting in the air. You remember Elevator X on the top? AJ Styles does this crazy sick move, climbing, hiding underneath the platform, doing all those kicks. Yeah, I mean, AJ Styles is the man. I mean, doing all those, uh, what you call corkscrew moonsaults, and yeah, that's TNA. I mean, they had Monty Brown, if you can remember him, the cool ass move from the what you say that pounds. You remember the clothesline?
Yeah.
Yeah. So TNA had stars that basically coming from WWE, but they were still putting good matches, good stories. I was just kind of disappointed when they brought Hulk Hogan into the picture, started changing the unique style of the ring, and they started making changes backstage. Storyline was going bad. He was trying to be copying WWF. It was not TNA's unique style. That's where I think they were going down. So yeah, although TNA is a second promotion now, but they still, I think they're still doing good. They got what's his name? Say his name and he appears.
I believe in Joe Hendry.
Yes, like that dude rocks.
I
So
remember Monty Brown. Didn't he go to WWE's ECW as Marcus Corvon later, I think?
yeah, they gave him a lame name, but they didn't use him that much. I think he left at some stage just to. But what I've heard is he left to take care of his sister's kids. I think something tragedy happened in the family. He took responsibility for that. Massive respect to the man.
I suppose. But I personally, back in the day, would have liked to have seen Marcus Corvon versus Bobby Lashley. I think that would have
Yes.
been and I think if you think about it, they were kind of leading up to getting us that match, but because he had to leave, I think they had to drop the whole build up on that. But yeah, I like how you bring up TNA. That's a good. That actually is a great promotion, and I think they after WCW folded, they were the ones who took that cruiserweight
Yes.
division forward. with the X division, the Ultimate X match, the X division championship. AJ Styles was like the face of that division for a very long time until he finally moved up to the heavyweight division. And I agree. I think what TNA tried to do to counter WWE was the worst decision when they moved TNA to Monday nights and tried to compete with WWE bringing back Bret Hart on the same night as they bringing back Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff and Mick Foley. I think, and then making the ring was perfect the way it was with that 6-sided ring. I don't know why they had to go back to the 4-sided ring, and it kind of lost its whole like uniqueness, I guess you could say, after that.
That's
And I think
that's what I was thinking. That's right.
what was probably the biggest, I would say, black spot in TNA's history, as much as I loathe to say it, it was probably when Jeff Hardy came to the ring drunk or high or whatever it was in that match against that attempted match against Sting. I at that point I think the TNA just hit rock bottom at that, and I know there's a wrestling pun, rock bottom, but they really did just go like downhill from there. So I don't TNA I don't think is ever since I'd say AEW came around, TNA is kind of dropped into third place, I would say. And the only thing really keeping them afloat is this partnership that they've got now with NXT, which I think is a good
Yeah.
deal for them. So they
Yes.
actually put talents with WWE, something that would have never happened before. And it just goes to show you that the Triple H Shawn Michaels era is working more than the VKM era, because let's be honest, Vince McMahon would have never had a working relationship with another company such as TNA, and he's doing it, and Triple H is doing it. So that's kudos to him for actually having that business mindset and wanting to collaborate and work with other promotions. So we talked about your favorite promotion. Let's talk more about what are your favorites. So if you were to sit back now as a wrestling fan, from when you started watching wrestling to now, what are your favorite matches, your favorite moments? We know you were a huge Bret Hart fan. You are still a huge Rey Mysterio fan. But other than them, what are your favorite wrestlers, matches, moments? What's your favorite? What is Kamal's favorites about wrestling?
Uh, okay. Favorite moments. You remember that time where Eddie Guerrero came with an idea to give laxative in Big Show's food, and Big Show had a running stomach.
I
Then
remember.
in the ring, Eddie came with this big ass truck, and he sprayed Big Show with a lot of poo on that. That was the funniest moment. That's what I miss Eddie for, all those light sheet steel moments where he takes the title, he drops it to his opponent, plays dead on the ground, and the ref looks and says, "Hey, you did this, you disqualified." Yeah. So those my favorite moments were when Eddie was around and he made wrestling fun. And it was not just athletic, it was creative, and he was good. He had a potential to make movies too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Viva la Raza.
Raza. True. I mean, Eddie would have worked well in like sort of like as a Mexican warlord in a movie or something like that. Would have worked. So moments, wrestlers. What about your favorite matches? Every wrestling fan has a favorite match. Well, what are yours?
Mm, yeah, I had so many favorites to mention. Too many favorites. You can't just decide. So, hey, favorite matches. I can say most. You remember Survivor Series that Cody Rhodes teaming up with Seth Rollins? Which one was it? War Games or Survivor
Last
Series?
year.
Where CM Punk returns.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, beating the hell out of Drew McIntyre, teaming up with
The Judgment
and
Day.
it's yeah. And everyone thought CM Punk after so many years didn't coming. He finally showed up, and you could see the anger at how the people didn't like him, and Seth Rollins showing the middle finger.
I remember that. He even
Yeah,
told him, "If you stay away from me, you cancer." So that's real beef right there.
yeah. It's one of my favorites. Yeah.
I mean, but that was just last year. I mean, let's go a bit old school, like 2000s, 90s. Do you remember any match that you just sat back and like, wow, this is an awesome match?
Mm, okay. You remember Rock and Mankind used to team the Rock and Sock Connection? They had
Yes.
buried alive matches. Yeah, so there was a match where they were versing Big Show and who was Big Show's partner at that time. So
I remember.
yeah, so when Big Show was about to win, Triple H just shows up, throws the sledgehammer on Big Show's head, and then he starts to bury Mankind alive while The Rock is busy with someone backstage. And then Stone Cold appears, gives Triple H a stunner. Yeah, those were the coolest matches. They should bring those matches like Buried Alive, casket matches. Yeah, all those classic type of matches. They should bring, really make money out of that.
Yeah. I mean, casket match and Buried Alive was more of the Undertaker's gimmick. I think those matches
Yes.
were specifically for him. I can't remember a casket match or a Buried Alive match that didn't involve either Undertaker or Kane in it. So I don't know. Do you think that we have a gimmick or a potential for a wrestler to, I wouldn't say replace the Undertaker, but be more like this generation's sort of version of the Undertaker in order to bring back the casket match, similar to uh, the Great Khali. If you remember the Great Khali, he
Yes.
had a match called the Punjabi Prison match. That match was specifically for him. And they brought it back when they had Jinder Mahal as WWE champion. They could bring back the Punjabi prison match. Now, for The Undertaker, his matches were buried alive, casket match, body bag match, those kinds of matches. The last ride match as well, sort of like a hearse ambulance kind of match. So, those kinds of matches suit that kind of gimmick. Do you think that there's a wrestler now that could or has the potential to fall into that same gimmick whereby they could bring back casket matches or buried alive matches?
Yes, of course. Bray White Six. I mean, Uncle Howdy. Yeah, they can like. I can. I think they can do that with 5-on-5, and then bury
Yeah,
the opponents all inside there. Yeah. So it will be much interesting with the White Six burying the opponents alive, or them getting buried alive and rising out because their characters are more like eerie, scary. It would be cool.
that actually would work because I think if you remember the very first buried alive match, Mankind versus
Yes.
Undertaker, Mankind buried Undertaker, but at the end, Undertaker's hand came up to the ground and was doing this. So it was like he's still alive.
Yes.
So that actually could work. Like doing a similar style with the Wyatt Six getting by, and then maybe Bo Dallas's hand coming up through and just doing this to say, oh, he's still alive. They didn't die. So that's actually not a bad idea. I didn't think of that actually. Yeah, you've actually
Yeah.
got a good mind for wrestling. You should probably be in the WWE creative team. Okay, so we talked about your favorite matches. We talked about your favorite wrestlers. We know all about that. Overall, what do you, Kamal, as a wrestling fan, what do you like about what made you a fan and what keeps you as a pro wrestling fan?
Okay, firstly, for us, when wrestlers perform moves, we think it is realistic. Um, when I was small, I used to think about two superheroes fighting each other, good versus evil. That's storyline, the acting. Wrestling is not just about watching people beat the hell out of each other, but it's more about using your imagination to and yeah, when you're watching on TV, you can't have wrestlers doing the same things every day. Um, what drives them is the emotion. Now it's evolving where you can see they actually make people cry, like really feel what the wrestler is going through. That's you are like you're watching a movie on screen. That's the creativity, imagination on that.
Okay, so it's like
Mm.
the theatrics and the storyline of what pro wrestling is
Yes.
that created and made you a fan and keeps you as a fan to this day. So on the
Ah,
opposite side, every wrestling fan talks about what they like about wrestling, and then a real hardcore wrestling fan also likes to talk about what they don't like about wrestling. So you are a hardcore wrestling fan. You've told us what you like about wrestling. What are the things that you don't like about wrestling that sometimes makes you feel like they shouldn't have done this, probably?
uh, what what I don't like is when you hear news about backstage news where wrestlers get involved in ugly incidents like recent Vince McMahon scandal, things he did bad backstage, how it affected other wrestlers, stars being released, your favorite wrestlers being released. Imagine them going through hard pain without jobs. And scary part is when wrestlers get injured, their careers cut short. Like Biggie, I really wish Biggie could come back. After that move, Rich Holland pulled with his Biggie's neck. Um, I miss Tyson Kidd a lot. He was such a big performer. You remember some more Joe's Muscle Buster. That's why they say kids don't try this at home because all those moves they have to be practiced, they have to be made safe, and yeah, those what I hate about wrestling is that sometimes wrestlers they don't get to live their full potential. Like look at AEW for instance, they they have stars that only been performing in 2 months, only two shows a
Yeah.
year of like Saul, what's his name? Of one mask guy is mentioned that he only wrestled twice in a year, but he's not allowed to.
Serpentico, I think. Serpentico.
Yeah, I think it's him. Also, when the wrestlers want to leave, they put penalties on them. Like
Mm.
Ray Phoenix, he was injured. Then he was going to sign with WWE, and Tony Khan said no, give him more injury time on his contract. And he's still not wrestling too. So how do you feel working for a company that doesn't give you opportunities?
And it's like I personally feel that Tony Khan is just being petty. I mean, the
Yes.
guy started off with your company. He took your company to great heights. It's not his fault that you, as
Yes.
a booker, are not booking him to perform on the shows. And now you just want to penalize him because he's looking at better opportunities, him and his brother going to WWE, and now you're holding them up because of injuries. Like as if the
Yes.
guy used so many years of his career already to try and build up a company from scratch that you probably wouldn't have had without names like him, as a foundation for the tag team division. So I just think that's just being petty from Tony Khan's side. And I think I saw someone else on YouTube actually say Tony Khan is slowly becoming like Vince McMahon. And it's sad when you look at it and you're like, yeah, he kind of is. And I do like how you brought up, in wrestlers, their favorite wrestlers that you like get released. I mean, some of the biggest names recent memory I can think of, Baron Corbin. That was a
Yeah.
huge, someone like him who's given so many years, was synonymous with WWE getting released. It's almost like, didn't he do so much for your company and now you're just letting him go and walk? It's crazy. But for me, personally, the things that hit me the hardest aren't so much the releases, because they'll get other jobs elsewhere. Injuries, there's a potential to come back at some point. I mean, look at Edge and Daniel Bryan. We all thought their careers were over and they're wrestling again. The thing that hits me the most is when wrestlers die or pass away. And I think the one death that hit me more than Eddie Guerrero's death was one that just happened last year when Bray Wyatt passed away. I remember I read that news that morning. I couldn't function for the whole day. I was in absolute total shock because Bray Wyatt was, and I've never been shy about saying it. Bray Wyatt was always one of my favorite guys. Excuse me. Bray Wyatt was always one of my favorite guys. That when the news hit and I found out that he passed away, I was like, I'm just sitting there with my phone in my hand. I'm reading this and I'm like, no, refresh
Mm.
this. I'm reading something wrong. So I refresh it and it's like, no, this is real. It's really happening. He's what? I
That's
couldn't sleep the whole day. It was for you, other than, I mean, every wrestling fan, Eddie Guerrero was probably the biggest death of all time. For me, that, and then second
we
would be Bray Wyatt. For you, what, other than Eddie Guerrero, because I know that hit everyone hard, what was the one wrestling death or tragedy that hit you the hardest?
eh, one of them is Chris Benoit. I mean, when we thought it was a suicide, then it turned out into murder. That was my biggest disappointment. I mean, I respected Chris Benoit and I loved everything about his performance, his themes. Um, we didn't get to know what was happening behind the scenes. Where after Eddie Guerrero passed away, I think Chris Benoit couldn't cope with himself, his issues, and he took it out on his family. So yeah, that's one of the most shocking, saddest deaths. He committed suicide, but he also murdered his family. And
I would say I have my own theories about it, but whenever someone mentions
mm,
that, I always like to add the word allegedly, because I have my own
yeah,
conspiracies about. I'm not going to get into that, but I always say it's alleged because we don't really know if someone snuck in through the back door, is all I'm saying. And that guy that I have a theory in my head that snuck into the back door also just recently passed away. So there's a lot we'll never ever know about what really happened that night. I try not to mention Chris Benoit because he was one of my favorite wrestlers. His theme song was probably one of my favorite theme songs of all time.
mm,
And
yeah,
hear what happened to him. There's so many questions left unanswered about Chris Benoit and what really happened that night. So I try not to talk about it too much, but yeah, I have my own theories about it. Speaking of theme songs, we haven't talked about that. So recently, the recent theme songs in WWE, up until like now when they started using mainstream songs, I think the last few years, year or two, the songs have sucked. Like really sucked.
exactly.
Who is a Def Rebel? Like, nah. CFOs,
Mm,
at least their music was bearable and usable to a certain degree. I mean, they created AJ Styles theme song. They created Roman Reigns Tribal Chief theme song. Those songs were okay. They were hits. Before them, though, nobody. And I will fight anybody on this. Nobody touches Jim Johnston's music. That guy
Jim
was an
Johnson
absolute
games, yeah.
genius. He made some of the best theme songs ever in the history of any company. I would put him up against Hans Zimmerman or Hans Zimmer, whatever he is in the movie industry. That's who Jim Johnston was to WWE. He was that damn good. My current, I mean, it's been my favorite theme song for about a few years now, but I do like Cody Rhodes' theme song. I like Roman Reigns' theme song. I think of all time, and maybe I'm a bit biased on this because this guy's one of my favorite wrestlers. But my favorite theme song of all time, currently as it stands, would be "Cult of Personality" by Living Colors for CM Punk. That is just a timeless theme song. It's a theme song you would expect CM Punk and his current character to come out to. What is your favorite theme songs from wrestling over the years? What just give us a few wrestlers' names if you can.
Okay, number one, Shawn Michaels. You
Mm.
know, sexy boy. Used to go in when that was my song when I used to walk into the classroom.
Okay.
And yeah, so imagine the ladies singing it for you in the classroom. And one more of my best instrumental themes, it was Chris Canyon. I used to like the rock. If you can remember, Chris Canyon starts a bit of the Undertaker and then starts going to the rock. If I can play it for you, you can post it online. That's Chris Canyon. And
I'll
then,
later.
yeah, the
I
first,
can't remember Canyon's theme.
yeah, do you remember Chris Canyon used to say, who better than Canyon? You don't remember him? He came in front of the Undertaker. Oh, he used to carry the champagne bottle. And when his opponent is not looking, he used to smash their heads with that bottle.
Oh, kind of like Jeff
So Chris
Jarrett.
Canyon was a, sorry?
So his gimmick was sort of like Jeff Jarrett with a guitar, smashing it over people's heads.
Sort of like that. Jeff Jarrett uh, used to hit it head front, but Chris Canyon used to hit it from behind. Oh, I remember he hit Goldberg with it once, and we'll get some clips online and show you. Chris Canyon was a cool dude. Also a good mentor to the stars backstage. If you'd be, but in
I
WWF he wasn't used that much. He was more of a WCW guy. Uh, TV
mm,
champion, cruiserweight champion. Yeah, so I'll share with you Chris Canyon's profile, everything with how cool his team was. Yeah, I'll send it to you on. Sure.
okay, because I think I've heard the name Chris Canyon, and I think I've only ever seen one match of his, and it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was during the Invasion angle, the WCW Invasion angle of
Yes,
2000. He
2000.
was there, but he never kind of stood out for me. So maybe I'm just my mind's a bit blurry on him, but nevertheless. So we've talked about your favorite matches, wrestlers. We talked about what you like about wrestling. We talked about what you don't like about wrestling. To close up, um, what would you, as a wrestling fan, like to see more of in the future? What would you like to see wrestling do going forward into the future?
As you mentioned in the story, I like to see more action than the backstage sequences, like less interviews, more matches, more time in the matches. And I don't want matches to be like AEW's matches. They keep bleeding people out. So you just want a match that will capture the audience.
it's like matches with no substance, basically.
Yes, more substance. Yes, and like I said, add some humor, more humor with art, not just with art shoot, but something with maybe yeah, bring some old school matches, tables, ladders, chairs, bring some. Maybe if you have a hardcore match, bring back the hardcore title, and then
I,
yeah,
I'm one of those who probably don't like the fact that they took away TLC as a pay per view. I think that was a great pay per view, especially when you have the opportunity to have four hardcore matches on a show. You can have a tables match, ladders match, chairs match, and a
yes,
TLC match. Like, why would you take it away? I mean, my favorite TLC pay per views, probably from 2010 or 2009 until 2016, I'd say, was probably the last good TLC pay per view. After that, they lost the whole plot on the gimmick. I remember one year they even had tables, ladders, chairs, and stairs. And I think it was Big Show versus Eric Rowan in his steel steps match. That was different, I would say. So I agree. I agree. They should make more hardcore matches, more speciality style matches. And for example, I'll give you a prime example. Recently, they have every year Survivor Series War Games. So great, we like War Games. That's great. Why not also on the same pay-per-view have what you used to have, the Survivor Series traditional elimination matches? So you're giving more than one
yes,
specialty match on the same pay-per-view. And then, I mean, I liked Elimination Chambers pay per view. I liked all the speciality pay per views that they used to have, and it would be nice to bring them back. I mean, one of them probably Cyber Sunday. I liked Cyber Sunday, and Taboo Tuesday, where fans would vote. That was like true. I think some of those polls were rigged, but if you really give the power to the people, you might actually get something great out of those pay per views. So yeah, they should. There's a lot
but
of stuff that they could do with wrestling, give it more substance, more entertaining, and the matches like have more
yes,
storyline or spots, creativity. I mean, you guys know when I do the Nash ratings or the PWC ratings, there's a certain criteria I look at, and if it doesn't match my criteria, I kind of give it a low rating. If it matches or exceeds my criteria, it gets a higher rating. So I that's the reason why my ratings sometimes are lopsided, but every wrestling fan has their own criteria that they like to work with. And I think you do too. And that's why you mentioned like you like a match to have substance, to have story behind it, to have storytelling within the match. So Kamal, thank you
uh,
for on this video. Any closing remarks, things you'd like to say to the PW fans that are watching before we close this video up?
okay, to all our subscribers, thank you so much for checking our channel out. We also like you to engage with us and click on those comments, invite your friends. We all want to participate in PWC. It's a joy to have you on our shows. Uh, yeah, this is my first video. I was a bit nervous, but don't worry, you'll be seeing more of me and I'll be sharing awesome stuff with you. And please don't forget to subscribe. And thank you so much for having me here on the show. And yeah, we'll not only talk about modern times, but we can go old school. I'm a fan of old school. You even mentioned about matches. Thought came into my mind about the Tower of Doom. You remember those matches? You have to climb up. Each level is like lockdown. Yeah, so those are the matches that really excite me. And yeah, thank you so much, Nash. It's a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure having you, and definitely we're going to see more of you. And thank you for bringing up the Tower of Doom. I completely forgot about that. That was actually one of my favorite matches. I remember the Mega Powers versus what was it? I forgot the name of the other team, but it was like Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage at WCW Uncensored 1995, if I'm not mistaken. And they had to climb down from the
Yeah.
top cage all the way down and escape. That's actually a concept.
Sting was almost, yeah.
Yeah, Tower of Doom,
Yeah,
Triple Decker
Sting
Cage.
was,
And you used to have the
sorry.
Thunderdome, Thunder Cage, or something like that. I can't remember, but something along those lines. And Ken Shamrock also had sort of like a UFC kind of cage that they used to set up outside the ring. But by far, the two worst cages they ever came up was, I don't know if you remember Scott Hall's cage. It was like called the Bird Cage. It literally shaped like Tweety Bird's cage, and two guys fighting inside the cage, and all
Oh,
around you was just and not even a ring. And I think every wrestling fan, the worst cage match of all time was the Kennel of Hell. Like that, let's not ever try that again. I think the Punjabi prison is better than the Kennel of Hell. That was just ridiculous. Anyways, thank you for joining us. We will see you in future videos. We'll talk old school, we'll talk new school, we'll talk everything about wrestling. Thank you for joining us. We're definitely going to see more of Kamal. So, guys, if you want to see more of Kamal, I know you do want to see more of Kamal. Give us a thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to Pro Wrestling Central if you haven't already. Turn on those bell notifications, and we will see you in another video very, very soon. Kamal will be here. The Legal Bald Eagle Jeremy will be here. Sumit, our Facebook jail veteran, our favorite Facebook jail veteran, will be here. So thank you. I know at some point we're going to get a nickname for Kamal, and we are going to love it because he is going to come up with a nickname for himself at some point. So we'll see where that goes. But until next time, guys, this has been one on Pro Wrestling Central. Thank you, guys, and we'll see you guys down the road. Peace and chicken grease.